Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the last Poetry on the Patio here at Coffee Connections. It's been an interesting series so far, especially with the weather. I always like to start by reading something from someone who I admire, and in this case it's poet Billy Collins. And he's the author of 12 books. He was the Poet Laureate of the United States from 2001 to 2003. And then from 2004 to 2006, he was the State Poet of New York. And this is called The Present. Much has been said about being in the present. It's a place to be, according to the gurus, like the latest club in the downtown scene. But no one, it seems, is able to give you directions. It doesn't seem desirable or even possible to wake up every morning and begin leaping from one second into the next until you fall exhausted back into bed. Plus, there'd be no past with so many scenes to savor and regret, and no future, the place you will die but not before flying around with a jetpack. The trouble with the present is that it's always in a state of vanishing. Take a second it takes to end this sentence with a period. Already gone. What about the moment that exists between banging your thumb with a hammer and realizing you are in a whole lot of pain? What about the one that occurs after you hear the punchline but before you get the joke? Is that where the wise men want us to live, in that intervening tick, the tiny slot that occurs after you have spent hours searching downtown for that new club, and just before you give up and head back home? This one's one of my favorites of mine. It didn't appear in either of my books, but people seem to like it pretty well. This is called The Song of the Number 2 Pencils. We stand together, erect in our holder, pointing towards the ceiling. No one likes us anymore. We haven't been touched in nearly a year. No one here sees our potential, understands what we can do. For the engineers and drafters, the accountants, we have gone the way of the slide rule. We are relics to them now. We do nothing anymore save collect dust by the light of computer screens. In the artist's studio, our usefulness would be realized. Imagine us, touched, fulfilled, comfortable among the brushes, paints, and chalks. Even in an elementary school, the children would still love, hold, fondle us, even the fattest of us. Everyone wants a purpose, and we are no different. Oh, to be an ink pen, a highlighter, black magic marker, or God help us, a Sharpie. Please forgive us our shortcomings. Those of us with chewed off erasers, we with toppers, the mechanical ones, even the little stubs. Forgive us our shavings, our eraser bits, our graphite mess. We beg of you, use us. Thank you. In the writing group I'm in, we had a assignment for this month, a writing prompt. And the writing prompt was to write something that starts out with, "There is an old saying." And I wrote several of these, and one of them took a pretty bizarre turn based on actually based on the album title of a Joe Walsh album from the 70s. And this is called Says You. There is an old saying, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. A seasoned fisherman, I found this to be true. However, I have found you can tune a cricket. Just bend its hind legs slightly outwards or inwards to change its pitch. You can tune any bird you can catch with slight clockwise or counterclockwise pressure to the base of its bill. You can also tune an elephant, but it requires a ratchet torque driver for the tusks. The same is true for the walrus and the elusive narwhal. You can tune a moose if you sneak up behind it, shift its rack up or down with a firm grip. Finally, contrary to common opinion, I proclaim you can tune a grizzly. I just don't recommend trying it. It's why people laugh and call me Lefty. Something a little more somber. This is called Always a Loner. You were like the girl in the Smiths song. You dress up on a Saturday night, go out alone with the hope you will meet the one. You sit at the bar, eat and drink alone for hours. No one pays you mind. Even the bartender ignores you. You go home as alone as you came. It's the same every time. It's as if you were let out of a car in the middle of Kansas or Nebraska. Nothing around but wheat fields and prairie. And it doesn't matter whether you start to walk or sit in the middle of the road. Okay, another one having to do with the prompt about the sayings. And this is called Oranges, Lemons, and Limes. The college professor, fellow from deep in Tennessee, recited a country saying. Sometimes you have to ask yourself if the juice is worth the squeeze. It sounded funny then, but my ex-wife wasn't worth the 20 years of lemon stains left on my hands. The kids were. I've still got pulp on my hands, no intention of washing. The career was limes. Too much effort in 35 years for the jigger of greenish acid. I've found relaxation the best value. I barely flex my fingers to harvest bucket loads. You were right, Bob. I do have to ask myself often. It helps to think ahead. This is about something I observed at one of the parks a couple weeks ago in the daytime, and it's something you're not supposed to witness during the daytime. This is called the oddest bird. Body shaped like a football. Beak like a knitting needle. 2 eyes, 2 stove lids. Feet flattened tripods. I can't figure how you are termed a shorebird when I only see you in the woods, in the marshes. You aren't white like an egret, seagull, albatross, pelican. Your plumage borrowed from others of your kind. You are mistaken for quail, whippoorwill, snipe, partridge, nighthawk, even pheasant. You court in warm dusks, I know. Hunt at night, they say. Yet I see you now in daylight, beak deep in the mud. You stride slow. Head bobs back and forth like a sideways sewing machine, though you appear to have no neck. Rare woodcock, fly south and hide in the leaves as you should. I bet you have never seen the sands of tides. And, well, I'll just hit you with this. Another one on the prompt. This is called All of Them. An old saying by Groucho Marx was, you can lead a gift horse to water, just don't look in his mouth. I think he was literally right. The fact is, you can lead any horse to water, gift or no gift, but you can't expect it to drink from the trough every time. And look inside any trotter's mouth. There is a huge tongue that feels like slime-covered 80 grit sandpaper, and a thick row of off-colored, well, horse teeth. And its mouth smells like moldy hay. They don't brush or floss, you know. People say he mixed adages about not tempting fate to gain a laugh. Well, Captain Spaulding knew that of which he spoke. I thought for this time I would read a number of things from my latest manuscript, a book I hopefully have coming out in the next 5 or 6 months. It's been sent to my publisher, and it's called Spotted at Harvest, and it's all about my experiences living out a little in the country ways when I moved back here. This first poem was in the late fall edition of the Glasscanade Review, which is the literary magazine that's put out 4 or 5 times a year by the Osage Arts Colony. This is called The Geometry of Agriculture. This place is a sheet of paper, sporadic pips from a pencil, the only marks. No busy sentences, no blocks of paragraphs. The scattered points, farmhouses and outbuildings, barns and silos. Some freshly painted white or red, some left to gray over time. Thin lines connect the dots. Roads that border fields, cultivated or left as pastures for livestock. Rectangles of freshly hydroseeded soybeans. Triangles newly dragged with tractor and disc harrow. Trapezoidal acres, rows of sprouted feed corn. Guernseys moan low in indifference to leghorns and rams that bleat sporadically in a nearby paddock. Winds sweep across the land. Passes of the spring bow compass churn up dust as raking implements create furrows in dry clay. The sheet rests now, held by clips on a drafting table. The lamp suspended overhead shines hot during work hours, is off and cool now, as tractors and protractors lie motionless. Indications of familiarity. When you can tell when a field of corn was planted by its height, You know there are more ponds and steel buildings than houses. When you know what livestock is being raised on a farm by the structures. When you know a grain dryer from a grain silo. You know what each of the farm implements are used for and when. When you can tell hay from straw from winter wheat. You can't drive past a field without looking for deer along a hedgerow. When you know these things, you realize you have been here quite a while. This is called To My Friends in Jersey. You don't know about this. A trip to the nearest pharmacy takes 20 minutes. You drive country roads, fields of crops on both sides, occasional farmhouses, barns and silos. The roads bear names, farm family owners. Their kids were your friends. You can travel miles, not see another vehicle. You pass Mulvane's Market. Mom bought brown eggs there, produce and watermelons. They're still open for business. When you get to the edge of town, there are housing developments with the names of the ones who sold their farms for millions, Pullman Estates and Stutley Run. The center of town is signed Old Town Cropville. You remember there was a traffic light and post office, a gun shop, a Dairy Queen, the school, and nothing else. At night, you hear coyotes howl from across the fields. Boys in their F-150s or Silverados doing burnouts on Lanity Road for fun, like you used to do. No trains or highways, strip malls or rush hours, no neighbors close or 7-Elevens. In 40 years, it really hasn't changed. Blocked.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
You owe me a set of tires.
Yeah, maybe I do. Blocked. Don't call me when I am in the woods. I won't buy a solar energy system. Won't accept a free Caribbean vacation. I will have to sit in a room as you attempt to hard sell me on a condo timeshare. I won't donate to the New Jersey FOP. I moved from there in May. When I am in the woods, I am immersed in the quiet. I escape the noise and stress, traffic and rudeness, deadlines and crowds and insanity that choked my previous life. I accept the calm of the woods, the wind and the prairie grasses. Those things, yes, but I will not accept your call.
Copy of that.
Sure. This is one of my favorites from this manuscript. You might have seen this. This is called B. Maple. Maple is a lab who lives behind us. She strays from her yard. This afternoon, as I floated in the pool, I heard her owner call. She called again. Maple had disobeyed. I heard a crash in the brushes at the creek line. There was splashing in the water. The woman screamed. Maple had ignored her owner and did what she wanted. Sometimes we all need to be Maple for a while. This one, I think I read last time. This is short, it's called Ruby. I watch birds a lot. I was intent on a photograph of the hummingbird, in awe of its throat bands, movements, and buzzing like a carpenter bee. I know now it is enough to be 10 feet from the theater as a helicopter hovers, dips its needle in the nectar. Outmatched by machine. Lost on my way home. Perhaps was on Route 161. Couldn't read the signs. Pulled into a church lot, faced away from the chapel. Headlamps shone on the corn across the road. I got out of the truck, accessed Google Maps, heard a rustle to my left. Saw a coyote on the edge of a fallow field, a front paw held up as they do when downwind from prey before the attack. We didn't move, stared at each other for a minute until it turned away, padding back into the prairie grass. I wondered what made it decide that action, not come closer. Perhaps it thought the taillights were the eyes of a beast, perhaps Satan's gargoyle. It did not want to fight, it knew it could not win. Let's see. This is called Cannot Deny. I close my eyes as I recline in the chaise lounge. The sun's swords lunge at me through the poplar leaves. Black lightning bolts flash horizontally against a red background inside my eyelids. I think of lines remembered in songs. Boulders are made of stone. There is water at the bottom of the ocean. Trees are made entirely of wood. Other people's lives are more interesting because they ain't mine. I wonder if these are the only real truths. This one's called Leisure Interrupted, and what kind of got me thinking about this subject was a line from a Tom Waits song, which is, "It's raining hammers, it's raining nails." Yesterday was sun and humidity, hours in the pool, glasses of iced tea left rings of sweat on the patio table, lounged on a chaise as I worked on my tan. Today is all rain, from torrents to sprinkles. The pool, a walleye chop, as I watch from the window. 2 inches so far. Promise of more tonight, the next few days. No hikes or bike rides, naps in the hammock, no kayaking at Beaver Lake. Forget about picnics, cookouts, garage and estate sales, bonfires, or stargazing. I could watch movies, go out for afternoon coffee, read poetry in the Florida room, gather thoughts of waiting Big Darby with fly rod in hand, or stoop to the televised antics of Judge Judy and Jerry Springer. Instead, I will nod off in the rocker, little dog on my lap, slip into dreams of other summer days outdoors where I belong. After all, it is the third week of June. People wonder where I get the ideas for some of my poems. This one's a true story, and it's titled Mistaken Identity. My nephew stood on the deck, watched through binoculars the largest red-tailed hawk we had ever seen, perched on an electric tower. He told me 2 weeks ago my great-nephew ran into the house, proclaimed there was a pink-tailed hawk in the sycamore near the deck. My nephew went out, looked up into the tree. The red tail stood over a robin's nest, face and body blood-covered. He asked if my great-nephew mentioned the pink-tailed hawk, that I please pretend there is such a thing. So much to read here. Maybe others have had this experience. This is called Prepare for the Ditch. I drive down Walker Road, a narrow strip between fields of soybeans the Chinese will not buy this year. I see a harvester headed towards me in the opposite lane. We get closer to each other, closer and closer, closer still. I see a figure in the cabin. I see he is texting on his phone as he drives the behemoth with his forearms. If there is a better example of feeling disconcerted, I don't know what it would be. Stealthy pause. Raindrops on falls debris in the tree line may cause a half-splat, half-crunch noise in the brush. Or perhaps creatures that take advantage of the sound to orally mask the crunch of leaves made by stealthy paws. Other nocturnal animals are not safe tonight, not even bucks in the middle of the rut. Hidden owl forewarns animals and eye death's approach, as it did the Camp Wyandottes in centuries past. Sometimes you see just a little something that doesn't mean anything at all, but it really gets you to thinking. This is called The Clear Wall Stoppeth. I wonder what a housefly thinks when faced with a window pane or automobile windshield. Invisible barrier to its travel. Perhaps it is intelligent enough to understand television science fiction programs. Believes it is up against a force field or plasma shield erected by a hostile alien race to impede or restrict its movements through certain airspace. In that estimation, it would be correct. The turn. The corn is brown, soybeans yellow, some fields larger than a town. Harvesters are alive now. Start their diesels hours before dawn, run hours after dusk. John Deere turns husks to dust, thunderhead thick. Feed corn falls into grain bins like a hailstorm. Families ride hay wagons, pick pumpkins and apples. Coal mine store, open since I was a kid, some 40 years ago, is still open today. Local honey, meats, candy apples, late vegetables for the buying. But there is also the chilled air, the closed pool, crinkle of leaves, ground littered with buckeyes. Orion sneaks into the 2 a.m. sky directly overhead. Soon, everything will be gloves and scarves and boots, snow shovels and scrapers, heating bills and chowders, and the desire for May to come back to Ohio. November 28th. It is 28 degrees outside. The weather report states the wind chill factor is 17 degrees. It has snowed for 2 days and won't stop for another. I drag the cans to the street through the gusts. My face feels frozen within several minutes. All I can think about is how can deer feel horny enough to want to mate in these conditions. Read that one last time. Again, just thoughts in the middle of the night. This is a short one called Where You Are. As I walked on the trail around Beaver Lake, it occurred to me, no matter where you are always upwind of somewhere and downwind of somewhere. This is called Around If You Notice. Soybeans the Chinese will not buy this year have sat in fields until the plants have turned brownish black. Steady rains have flooded land, kept farmers from performing their work. It is now mid-December. 20-degree temperatures by day, into the teens all night. Saturated ground and ponded low areas are frozen. Tonight, I drive down Carter Road, see what looks like headlights for numerous cars on Walker Road. I get close in an auger combine, a crop row tractor pulling a collection hopper unit close behind, both arrayed with rows of spotlights. They will harvest late into the night. Crops are a resource that can't be left to deteriorate. Hipsters in town don't understand. Think food is ever present like stars as they sit in the microbrewery, talk politics and technology, eat their soy Chinese mallow and field greens veggie burgers. Hunt delayed. You, coyote, will have a rough night. The snow is crusted. Creek is frozen. Small animals will leave no tracks while your feet sink 6 inches down. You're gray against white will stand out. Best find a pine tree to curl under and sleep and dream. Ignore the pangs in your gullet until the temperatures reach 47 on Sunday. Lucky this time. I walked the dog the quarter-mile down the drive to the road and back. A siren sounded in Jerome Township, then Brown, then Prairie, Dublin, and Hilliard. It was the day after Christmas, so this meant noontime. I could relax. Had this been summer, it could have meant tornado. I would have hoisted the dog into my arms, ran to the house. It would have meant the southwest basement corner, crouched with the weather radio. Hope to not hear the roar. Power of nature, violent and vindictive and spiteful, like a housewife's revenge on an unfaithful husband. I won't say where this is, but it's true. This is called Not Unusual out here. There are people who live down the road. Around their house and barn, an accumulation of items was abandoned to winter. A fire pit and 2 grills, several lawn chairs and a bench, a table with umbrella, kiddie pool, a hammock, wheelbarrow full of lawn tools, lawn tractor covered under tarp, against the barn, a weed eater, garden stakes and tomato cages, rabbit fencing rolled, a snow blower rusted. They have a gravel driveway, poles for bird feeders. These people are older than I understand them, though I don't know them. There comes a time, I guess, when months, seasons, years move faster and faster, and it doesn't seem worth the effort to put things away. This is on Haunches Gaunt. Clouds of winter solstice pour across the sky, southwest determined to the plains. Stubble of fields harvested await disc and harrow. Grain is sold. Time for farmers to maintenance machinery. Near the end of deer season. Time to gather firewood. Time to gather the family. Air, frigid, will soon freeze. Creek and ponds will freeze. Snow's curtains will drop. Coyotes become starved. Rabbits and squirrels more cautious. End of year closes in on quiet of country. Winter will lurch like a dog on haunches gaunt. Hearse will not cure shadows long or chilled men. You ever go by someplace or pass a person and you wonder about those people's lives? Or you wonder what they must do with their days? I had an experience like that in February as I drove out to a nature preserve near Circleville, and out of that came this poem. It's called Rural Lament. I took a trip today, drove down Route 104, crossed 22 and 36 and 42. Nothing to see but fields, sparsely punctuated by old farms and grain elevators. In one of the farmhouses, a woman in her 60s sits at a kitchen table, waits for her husband to return home as he checks fox traps on the hedgerow. She stares into her coffee, wisps of gray hair in her face. Her thoughts wander far. She has lived here all her life. She dreams of life in the city, light and sound and shows. No more tractors or barns, collection of eggs, smells of hay and cow manure, red dresses and pink cocktails. She dreams of parties. She dreams of dancing. Just have two more to read. This one's a little silly, I guess. One of the ladies in our writing group, Sandy, had written a poem about just a headline she'd cut out of a magazine, and that was, "I'm going to completely lose him." And it gave me an idea to write a poem of my own based on that. And this is called How to Lose It. There is a saying, "I completely lost it," or "I'm going to completely lose it." You may wonder what it is or how one does it. Here are some instructions. Throw whatever it is in your car. Drive to some place you've never been. Get lost in the unfamiliar. Pull off the road. Get out with it in your hands. Close your eyes. Spin clockwise 3 times, then counterclockwise 5 times. Throw it back over your head. Eyes still closed, spin 7 times clockwise. Open your eyes. Don't look to see where it landed. Go back to your car. Set your GPS for home. When you get home, delete the GPS directions. Congratulations! You have now successfully lost it. You should feel catharsis, or at least a sense of accomplishment, so long as it wasn't your wallet, phone, or checkbook. The last one I'm going to read is kind of an old one. This is from 2011. While I was still working in the writing group in New Jersey, this got published in some magazine. I don't remember which one. Anybody still watch 60 Minutes? Remember Andy Rooney? I was a big Andy Rooney fan, and always watched him and read his books, and tried to copy the way he picks things apart in a poem. And this is called Andy Rooney Examines Fear. Let's examine for a moment fear. Some are rational and understandable. The fear of losing your privates, especially by means involving a knife. The fear of accidentally walking into the women's restroom and being caught. The fear of soiling one's pants in a public place. An irrational fear would be the fear of eggplant parmesan panini. I happen to like a good panini. The fear of faux fur. The fear of radio waves. fear of any particular season would be debilitating. FDR said we have nothing to fear but fear itself. That kind of makes sense in a very Zen sort of way. The dictionary states that fear is an unpleasant feeling of anxiety caused by the presence of danger. So where is the danger in being a eunuch or of being publicly embarrassed? Italian sandwiches, textiles, and changes in the weather all appear pretty harmless. Do we just enjoy being scared? Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.